Hi, I'm Nathaniel Ealy. I'm here representing the AugustaRule.com. And what we do is we automate tax savings for business owners through the Augusta Rule, which allows them to rent their homes for up to 14 days a year tax-free. And so we'll explain what the rule is, how it benefits business owners and how we automate that. And then I'm here with Rick and Harmony Durfee from Durfee Law Group. And I'd like to hear from you both, what it is that you guys specialize in, why our audience should care. And so we can basically introduce each other's audiences and share why there's really a lot of cross-pollination and value between our audiences. So go ahead, guys.
Super. Thank you, Nathan, and good to be here. This is Rick Durfee from Durfee Law Group, Durfee Law Group, durfeelawgroup.com. We provide estate planning. We call it integrated planning, business planning, tax planning, asset protection, charitable planning. All of those are related services to clients all across the U.S. And our client profile matches pretty closely with yours. Most of our clients are business owners and they have houses. So if you have those two elements, you own a house and you have a business, you can be way more tax efficient if you appropriately deploy the Augusta Rule to, in fact, there's some T's to cross and I's to dot to make it work. But if you do the paperwork and document it properly, it creates some tax efficient income. And so we love that for our clients, and that's part of what we do. Some things that make us unique, I guess. Although we do estate planning, our focus is different than a lot of other firms. Typical estate planning focuses on death, what happens when somebody dies, and who's going to get their stuff. We look beyond that. We call that Dynasty Estate Planning. So we're not just planning for what's going to happen with your stuff when you die, but what is the stuff going to do to the people, and what are the people going to do to the stuff? So how can we preserve that wealth and make it grow multi-generationally and benefit the family long-term and be protected from creditors and be tax efficient and all that kind of stuff. So everybody who does that kind of planning, if not today, someday will have a business. And if not today, someday will own a residence. So they may not need it now, but they will need it eventually, even if they don't, if they're starting out in their startup mode, maybe not, but sooner or later, they're going to need this and they would benefit by using the Augusta Rule to their advantage.
So and part of that multi-generational planning is my part in things, because I am the Generation 2 lawyer working to Generation 3, Generation 2 currently working at the firm, Generation 3 lawyer in making sure that as clients are dealing with inheritance, how do they manage that? How do they appropriately decide how the stuff is going to affect the people and people affect the stuff beyond just the current life cycle?
Gotcha. So when I hear this, what are the actual mechanisms that you guys are bringing to your clients to help them with these, times of transition? So, we're talking about business owners. They're creating wealth. They're creating value. They get paid for that. They get certificates of thanks, which we call dollars, and those accumulate. They accumulate assets. They probably got an entity or two. What are you guys specifically bringing to the table? What do people pay you for? And then thank you with their dollars.
That's a good question. I thank you for that. So when we do estate planning, people have stuff. They have companies, they own properties, and if it's just willy-nilly thrown in a big box and okay, give it all to my kids when I'm dead, you don't get a lot of protection. But if you structure it appropriately so that the trusts and the LLCs and the limited partnerships and the corporations are integrated so that they connect in a meaningful and tax efficient manner, you get a whole bunch of good deals. You get tax efficiency, which everybody likes. Anybody who wants to pay more taxes instead of less is crazy. Everybody wants to pay less. And you also get asset protection. And so if we can combine, my taxes go down, my assets are protected, my assets are both more useful to me today and transition through my family multi-generationally and grow instead of shrink. And by the way, in the process, the people are benefited instead of ruined by having money dumped on them at a time or under circumstances where they're not ready or prepared, then everybody comes out on top. So
Okay.
that's kind of the add-on that we provide. So we can work with clients anywhere in the U.S. We have clients all over the country. We have lawyers licensed in 7 or 8 states. I don't know the exact count. And if we are working with a client in a state where we don't have a licensed lawyer, we can get one if we need one. A lot of what we do, though, is based on federal law, so it really doesn't matter.
Yep.
And because we are in that multi-state environment, we are well equipped to help people deal. Today, the clients are multi-state. They go, well, I got property here and there and everywhere, and I have companies here and there and everywhere. So we can help them shop. Well, what's the best jurisdiction to form your entities in? And we like to make them so that they're portable and not dependent upon any one place and can move as needed to capture whatever benefits or desirable outcome is available in another jurisdiction.
Excellent. Two things stood out to me well, there's a lot of things there, but 2 things popped to me when you spoke there, Rick. One was you said you help people make their companies or assets more valuable today. Could you unpack that for me? How do you guys make their assets more valuable today?
Sure. Well, lots of ways. The two that I've already mentioned are, number one, if the company or the assets are structured so that hostile, aggressive, opportunistic, predatory plaintiffs can't get it. If it's unavailable to the litigation monsters out there, that's better. That's more useful. And if we're paying less in taxes than we would otherwise have to pay, that's better. If we're structuring this with the view towards there's going to be value that outlives you, and we're planning for what's going to happen, not just today, not just this year, not just this week, and not just in this current 1-year tax cycle, but in the next 50-year or 100-year or 500-year tax cycle, then you're building for long-term growth. And as part of that, it's kind of like, well, let me say it this way. Businesses that are planning for what's going to happen in 100 years do way better than businesses that can't think beyond next week. So,
There we go.
so having that long-term vision changes the way people do business, changes the way they manage their investments and their finances. I guess a story that's in one of my recent books that I just published called Trust Issues. Client situation where this investment advisor was pitching. We have long-term investments, and the client said, "What does long-term mean for you?" And he said, "Well, sometimes 5, maybe even 10 years out." And the client said, completely straight-faced, "Long-term for our family means 200 years." So that's people that are thinking about what are my investments going to do long-term, which means beyond my own mortality. That's a different mindset, and you get different results.
There we go. And that's the key right there, because this was the second thing, and you just naturally went right to it. You're talking about long-term. You've used the word dynasty with me when we've talked in other conversations, multi-generational, you mentioned, and I think you just really put your finger on it, which is this creates a different outcome. Like this mindset, this approach actually creates tangible outcomes today and outcomes tomorrow and outcomes that outlive us. And I think that's something that you guys are really bringing to the table uniquely. I find that approach to be extremely rare when I talk to, various wealth advisors, various counselors, legal or otherwise, across the entire, breadth of professionals in the space. And so that's what makes me interested to have a conversation with you guys and continue on, as I think we're in alignment on how we approach things. It's not just how do I get a quick buck? Which, hey, everybody likes a quick buck. Zig Ziglar's quote, money isn't everything, but it's reasonably close to oxygen, is pretty spot on.
It comes in handy.
It's where it comes in handy. And we're talking about this over time because really, the other side of that is, okay, well, now we have money, but what are we actually doing with it? What's the benefit received? And that's what people often don't actually bring the conversation towards, but that's really what we're all operating around. Okay, I've got money, but what am I actually getting with that money?
So, I want to use a metaphor that we just did this bike ride that was more than 400 miles over the course of a week. And we saw a lot of families, moms or dads with kids on the back of their bike.
Yeah. Cool.
And now contemplate this, because this is what we do with money. Eventually, those kids, the point is, there's going to come a point when, not very old, 9, 10, 11, that kid's going to be on their own bike, pedaling on their own power, and it's going to go hundreds of miles in just a few days. Now, what happens if the kid never does that? What happens if, can you imagine an adult on the back of their parent's bike? Hey, keep pedaling, mom. Keep pedaling, dad. I need to go to college. I need to buy a house. I need to buy a car. And they never learn to ride the bike themselves. And in fact, the kid's thinking, man, I can't wait till mom or dad dies, because then I get the bike to myself. Well, if they've never learned how to ride the bike when mom and dad are gone or can't pedal anymore because they've aged out of pedaling, suddenly what's going to happen to the bike? It's going to crash.
Yes.
It's going to crash and burn. And that kid isn't going to know what to do, which is why, by the way, generationally, people who just think about, oh, I'm going to give my bike to my kids when I'm dead, does no good if the kids can't ride the bike. And so the kids have to learn how to ride themselves. So they've got to learn how to create their own wealth and not be dependent upon mom and dad. And when you have that mentality, you get a family full of bike riders as opposed to a family full of passengers pushing mom or dad to pedal faster.
Yeah. And zooming out from that analogy, what we're really talking about here often is businesses, plural. And
Yes.
when mom and dad pass it on, that bike rack isn't just a bike rack. It's a whole bunch of careers, and the ripple effect of all those families.
Yes.
And
Well,
knock-on
and
effect damage is incredible. Yeah. Go ahead, Harmony.
business is where the entrepreneur who started the business and they're running the business and operating the business, if they aren't actively teaching a successor, what happens when the business owner dies? The business is gone. Everything was in their head. Everything was in how they do it. And suddenly there is no business anymore. Whereas if the business owners are actively teaching successors, hey, here's how I do this. Here's how the business works. Here's how it operates. And if generation 2 or generation 3, they're working in the business, when it comes time for the entrepreneur who started the business and who pioneered this at the beginning, for them to step down, retire, go on vacation, do other things, or if they pass away, hey, you already have someone who's been working in the business and who's been pedaling their own bike, and they understand how it works. So when they get it, it's significantly easier to keep it going. Because if you're just operating under, it's me, and when I die, it's done, it's not going to go anywhere once you're dead. It's gone.
Yeah.
It gets wiped off.
And I want to add to that, by the way, that doesn't mean they have to be in the same business. Among my 8 children, only one of the 8 is in the same business as me. Most of them are doing other businesses that have piggybacked off of, or taken the skill set they learned while working over here, and now they're doing something else in another business. They're pedaling their own bike, and they took their own bike on their own path, and that's great. So the family wealth is not limited to what I was able to develop. Everybody is developing their own wealth.
Yes. Okay. So what are you guys doing? So you obviously have a philosophy and an approach. What are some of the tools that you're bringing to the table to equip people along these lines, other than, some YouTube videos or podcasts like this? What's actually, when I'm paying you and engaging your services, what are the tangible products that I'm getting that align with what you're just speaking to?
So one of the pieces, first of all, there's going to be business entities. There will be LLCs and corporations and limited partnerships and other business trusts and things like that. So we're gonna use those. But one of the key core elements is what we call a dynasty trust. This is a trust that is designed from the ground up to outlive us. It's designed to last a long time. So it has some very specific features. We have succession. Who's going to be in control 100 years from now when all of us are dead? Who's going to get benefits? What benefits are they going to get? How do we throttle the benefits so that they don't become self-destructive? How do we protect the principal so that it grows instead of shrinks? So we have thought through and have carefully mapped out all of those things. And by the way, there are an endless number of variations on how that can be done. So often we're fine tuning the details of that to match the family philosophy and culture and ideas of the client, but it's still focused on that core idea that this is going to outlive you. Similar to, candidly, the founders of our nation wrote a constitution that anticipated that things were going to happen long after they were all dead. And guess what? Things have happened, good and bad. And people have conflicting opinions. This was good. No, that was bad. So, but there's a mechanism to deal with that, a mechanism to accommodate changes of leadership, a mechanism to accommodate changes of the rules that govern, a mechanism to accommodate changes of what property or business or things are possessed. So we anticipate all that and build that into a trust. So that kind of trust is fundamentally different than the classic trust that people get when they go to do estate planning. It has some things that are the same. Oh, well, every vehicle with four wheels and a windshield and doors and a motor to make it go is a car, right? Yeah, well, cars can be vastly different one model to the next. And so this trust device is vastly different than what an ordinary, I want to avoid probate and give my stuff to so-and-so when I'm dead kind of device.
Yeah. And I want to connect that with some of what the Augusta Rule does too, because I know that when we met, you gave a presentation on the accrual benefit of the Augusta Rule, using it year after year after year, and how it improves with time. That's one of the other effects of our dynasty trusts. They improve over time. The more you use them, the greater the benefit is. So it appreciates in value as it gets used. You develop interest on the value of the documents that you have, because the more you put into it, the more you get out.
So let's think about this. In fact, let's apply this directly to the Augusta Rule. We want to have a business event in our residence, and we want the company, our business, to rent the residence for that business event, right? That's how the Augusta Rule works. It's going to pay the day rate, Airbnb rate or whatever for the residence for that day. We're going to have a business event at the residence, and so we rent it, and that's tax-free income to the homeowners, which is kind of cool. So what could that business event be? Well, a lot of things. First of all, we're going to have an agenda for the family business meeting. We're to elect officers and directors for our companies going forward. We're gonna consider new purchases, new employees, new directions. We're going to consider innovations. We're going to take this strategy instead of that strategy, and we're going to memorialize all of that in appropriate documentation. So we, in fact, had a business event at our home, a real one. It wasn't fake, it's not phony. And in fact, as a consequence, not only did we intend to make more money, we made more money. So and when we make more money, we pay more taxes. So the tax man is happy, because ultimately their tax revenue goes up because our income is up. But we get this little piece of the income, which, because it has a business purpose and we're taking advantage of specific rules that are permitted under the tax code, we get some tax favored treatment of some of the cash flow that's coming off of that business activity.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And when you're doing that, so that's kind of like the flip side of the coin of the Augusta Rule. Everyone gets attracted by the tax-free income, but the flip side of the coin is what you're actually increasing in revenue through the planning that you're regularly doing at your home. And now, does that planning have to be at the home? Well, yeah, for the Augusta Rule, but it's often planning that's just not done, period, by any business owner.
Yeah.
In such a hurry, they skip it. And so we use this as a mechanism to say, look, here's some money. By the way, let's make more of that by doing this planning regularly.
Why, it's amazing if you use the tax code to get this tax benefit, it actually helps you make more money.
Yeah.
What?
Your business improves.
Yeah. That's part of the vision that we bring too, which is why there's a good correlation between the planning we do and the Augusta Rule implementation that you're promoting and facilitating. There's a natural correlation there. We are preaching the same gospel here. hallelujah, join in the song.
So let me ask you this then. So you guys, you do the Augusta Rule for yourself, Rick. Not many do it for themselves. You know, I did it for myself before I developed, our software with my partner, John Heyer, who's a 30-year experienced tax attorney. Tell me, what the journey was like for you to initially learn about the rule, get comfortable with the rule, actually, walk it out, that type of thing, because that's a big hurdle for a lot of business owners. And one of the things that I found is, you know, it took me a long time to get comfortable as a non, lawyer, as a non tax pro. And not only that, it distracted me from the main value creation of my business. And so when we developed our done for you product, that was one of the chief goals is let's not distract from the value creation that the business owner does. So I would love you to speak to as a legal professional, you had knowledge about this, but then you had to enact it. What were some of the hurdles you had to overcome? What were some of the things that you had to do to make it actually benefit you?
Well,
I'd actually like to interject on that first
yeah, you go
and
for
add,
it.
uh, one of the things about how Rick has run his business is to be family oriented. So well before the Augusta Rule was around, our family has councils where all of the siblings will meet together and discuss the various business ideas and entrepreneurial spirit that we have. And so we've been having family business meetings well before there was a tax benefit. That has been every week of life growing up in Rick's household. And so while there is to some extent the adapting of, okay, how do we fit into the Augusta Rule niche aspect? But that's already something that's in the spirit of our family and that we encourage to be in the spirit of our clients. Because one of the reasons why me and each of my siblings are all pedaling our own bikes and we're all working in our own areas and are not fully dependent on our parents is because we were starting that from day one. I never felt like there was going to be a reason for me not to be entrepreneurial. So I was starting that at the beginning. It was, okay, I'm going to do this. Now the question is how. And that spirit has been around in our family for a good while. And we encourage clients to do the same thing. One of the things that we strongly recommend to clients is to have family councils, because the more you actually talk to the people who are involved in your estate plan, the better you will be at knowing what your estate plan is, and the better they will be at preparing for the opportunities that come up with businesses and entrepreneurial spirit, or when they inherit stuff and all of that. So to some extent, there wasn't that much adaptation to the Augusta Rule because it was already part of our family culture well beyond and before the Augusta Rule was around.
Now, let me add to that. There was always a tax motivation. Please.
Nice.
Okay.
Family. I'm trying to integrate my family in and teach my family that very, very family oriented. But every time we went anywhere for anything, we had a business purpose. And we all, wherever we went, we were looking at and in fact buying rental properties. So there's nowhere in the United States of America that you can't go to look for rental properties, and you'll find them, and there they are. And if in fact you're investing in them, guess what? Why were we in that place? We were in that place on a business trip to explore the purchase of rental properties, and we in fact would gather up the materials. Well, here's the properties we looked at. We checked out the pricing. We checked out the marketplace. Is this the kind of place we would like to own properties? And then we would have a meeting about that, and we would memorialize that meeting with minutes. And we would have an agenda. And you ask what hurdles go along with that. Here's one of the hurdles: when everybody's dressed in their jackets and coats and have their snowboard in their hand and go, "What? Shut up! Here's the agenda. Here's the agenda. No, we're going to conduct some business, and we in fact conduct the business. And your input is essential." And so they learned there was some early resistance. Candidly,
especially with the teenage brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but eventually they figured out, oh wait, this is how we paid for this trip because we're here on business. Yeah, buddy.
that's
And in fact, we will make more money as a result of this trip again. So the taxman shouldn't feel bad about this trip. This is a revenue generating trip. But in the meantime, after we're done doing the business or in between the business, let's hit the slopes.
there
Uh,
you go.
so we and this is part of, I guess, live life with a view towards how are the ripple effects of your life going to outlast you, but also live life with a business purpose.
There you go. I think
Everything
that's
we do and everywhere we go, we have a business purpose.
perfect. And then you guys are very abnormal in that, which is awesome, right? And so you're already set up to be prime candidates for the Augusta Rule because of how you approach things, the regularity of the business focus that you have, not only in, at work, but you've brought that into your family culture. And so what we found when we built our product is, so the Augusta Rule exists. So why do we need a product around it? I mean, it's there, like anybody can do it, right? You can get a spreadsheet, you can go find your own comps, you can get your own rental agreements, you can do all these things. But our product is a done for you product. And so
Right.
for people who don't already have these habits built in, they probably have business at home already. We're not trying to get people to change their habits because that's really hard. What we found is most business owners already have legitimate meetings at their home. We're simply trying to capture those. And so what we've done
They
is
don't realize what opportunities they have.
that's right. That's right. So what we do is we have a 15 to 45-minute onboarding with the business owner one time, or at least once annually, just to, check in on things. And after that, we actually train the person who has calendar access on their team. So an executive assistant, their office manager, there's various roles that can take care of this. But then that person spends less than 3 hours a year, and all of a sudden they're turning those 3 hours a year plus that 15 to 45 minutes of the owner into thousands, if not tens of thousands, or sometimes even six figures of tax-free income that they didn't even know they could have had. And so what we found is there's kind of this intersection of, you guys are tax experts and legal. You got this sphere over here where you're like, we teach this, we know how to implement it. We've got kind of the tax filer sphere. So you've got one sphere here, then one sphere here, then you got the business owner. So three circles, but they don't always intersect. It's not quite a Venn diagram. And so we're trying to be right in the middle there and plug those three together. We've got the tax expertise through John and legal expertise. We've got the tax filer expertise because John also has filed thousands of tax returns, if I'm not mistaken. And so we've got those two. And we also collaborate with the tax professional of the business owner. But then we've got the business owner whose habits we're not trying to change. We understand business owners. I'm an entrepreneur. John's an entrepreneur. So I specialize in building systems and teams that are self-managing. So my companies are self-managing, which is why I'm here traveling with my family for 4 weeks and business is getting done. And I can hop on a call like this, but I just came from the beach minutes ago. And so that's not to say that we're not conducting business. It's because our ability to create teams and create functional outcomes that don't require us, and then plugging that into this specialized rule. And we want that for other business owners. We want the same freedom that you talked about, Rick, that you have in your family, Harmony, that I'm experiencing. And we want to build that freedom, and we want to build it through things that leverage what you're already doing.
Yes.
Business meetings at home.
From,
So, and then
from
we
a
want to connect them with people like you who bring value. And you're like, look, we can create this protection. We can create these systems and processes. We can put all this in place. We can teach you. And, simply by engaging both of our services, we're literally putting more money in your pocket, protecting your money, making your money last not only in your lifetime, but past your lifetime. And that's the message that I wanted to bring out today when we're talking. So that's pretty much the point.
Sweet. So
Yeah.
from a compliance perspective, a couple of elements.
Sure.
Number one, if the business entities don't exist, and if they're not in compliance and properly documented, the Augusta Rule falls down.
Yes.
Number two, if the paperwork and the record keeping is not done, it falls down. It's not audit proof. So to be audit proof, you have to document the what happens to qualify for the Augusta Rule, and that's the piece that you bring, which is awesome. A piece that we bring is that business entity structure and compliance on the legal side, so that when the tax reporting is done, you're going to have paperwork is going to be there to support the Augusta Rule treatment of the cash flow. We're going to have the piece we bring is we're going to help make sure that legal entity is structured and in compliance so that it also qualifies. Because on audit, I can tell you this: if you get audited, they're going to say, "Where's your paperwork for that Augusta deduction you took?" And you have to have it. And you need to say, "Yeah, right here." And they're also going to say, though, where are the minutes for your business entity? Where are your filings with the local Secretary of State or Corporation Commission? Where are the resolutions? And that's a piece that we can do on the corporate or business entity side, as well as helping structure that. So if while you're having that event at your home, if I don't know, somebody drops the punch bowl and there's an injury, you're protected from that liability. Awesome. I want to add another kind of quirky nuance here. When you're doing this multi-generationally, you can say, well, you know what? We've had our 14 days of events at our house. The next business meeting is at your house.
That's right. You totally can. Yeah. So one thing that John taught me too is that you could actually have an event that qualifies for yourself, Rick, at Harmony's house.
Yes.
You can have, your children's houses qualify for you, not just for them as well. And that's so unknown. And it's also, people don't realize you can do this for multiple residences. So our typical client has between 2 and 4 residences. And then they also don't realize that it doesn't have to be just in the US. It can be in the North American area, because we have treaties with a bunch of, Central American countries, Canada, Mexico, Caribbean. And so we've got clients with houses, around the whole area.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter where the house is. It matters where the owner is.
That's right.
If the owner is in the US, you can pay a US owner for the use of their property in Panama or wherever.
That's right. Yep. Well, good. Well, let's bring this in for a landing. Is there anything else that we want to share with our respective audiences? Or I think that about kind of covers just a brief overview. And I know I would direct people to, you look at your website, look at our website, the augustarule.com/save. We've got some free bonuses to give to people if they jump on. Where should people go to find you guys and learn more about your product and offerings?
Send there are 2 places, durfeelawgroup.com and our YouTube channel. It's been our experience that to implement something like this, people need to know what they're doing. They need to get educated. And the decision window, should I do this or not, isn't something they're going to make. Oh, I thought about this for 30 seconds, like picking an ice cream flavor. It takes a little longer. So get educated, learn. Go to our website, go to our YouTube channel, go to your YouTube channel and website, durfeelawgroup.com, or look for Durfee Law Group on YouTube. And subscribe to our channel. We have hundreds of videos, hundreds of articles and things like that you can learn, including a number about specifically the Augusta Rule. And we're happy to work with AugustaRule.com. That's very compatible with what we do. We're team players and collaborative, so we will work with you. And if you're working with them already, and you're thinking, wow, is my estate plan or my legal plan or my asset protection plan or my other elements of the tax plan, is it complete? We can help you. And we, again, because we are team players and collaborative, we can work with Nathaniel and his team, and John and everybody on that side.
Yeah, likewise.
I'd also like to add, Rick just published a book called Trust Issues. That's another great resource in terms of learning how trusts work and evaluating your own trust if you have one. It's available on Amazon. It's a great read. And that's another great resource in terms of figuring out how to evaluate what you need and if you need to level up or if you want to level up.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Yeah, I should mention our YouTube channel as well. Lots of videos drop in there daily, or should I say weekly. And so building a basically a volume of information, because we talked in rough terms about our services, but just like you mentioned, you've got a bunch of education because there's so many specifics, and we have the same thing. So we've got bonuses to give away if you go to the website /save. We've got a YouTube channel. And, if you hop on a strategy call, we actually engage with our clients and tell them exactly how much they can save with their specific circumstance. And one of the giveaways is, the 10 rules of that matter when you're taking advantage of the Augusta Rule, because we want to maximize and optimize people's results. And what we found is people don't often get all 14 days deducted. They'll get like 6 days or 10 days, but they won't optimize it. And one of the things our service brings is, let's get all 14 for you, right? And let's make this build, multi-generationally. Let's make it build for decades in your career, so it turns into millions of dollars that you would have that you would otherwise pay to the tax man, which we're not fans of. We want it to go where value is created, and that's in the pocket, of business owners. That's in your pocket. So.
Yeah, and again, if you do it right, you actually make more money, and the tax man will be just fine.
That's right. He'll be just fine. I will leave it at that. Thanks
All right.
everybody for joining us today. Cheers.
Thank you all. Great to visit with you.
Pleasure
All right.
talking.